Chapter 3, Mishnah 1. The Mishnah now returns to the rules of writing a get. It teaches about the intentions the writer must have when he writes the get. Any get that is not written for the sake of the woman being divorced with it is invalid. The Mishnah explains this rule by citing 4 cases. How so? If a man was passing through the marketplace and he heard the sound of scribes dictating the text of a sample get to their students, so-and-so, the man, is divorcing so-and-so, the woman, from such and such a place, and it happens to be the names of the man, woman, and town mentioned in the get correspond to his name, his wife's name, and his town, and he said, that is my name, and that is my wife's name, and that is the name of our town, and therefore he wants to use this get to divorce his wife. The law is that this get is invalid for him to use to divorce her. A get must be written for the purpose of divorce, but this get was written simply for practice, a ruling that is more novel than the previous ruling. If a man wrote a get with which to divorce his wife, and he changed his mind and decided not to divorce her, and then a person from his town who wished to divorce his wife met him and said to him, my name is the same as your name, and my wife's name is the same as your wife's name. Therefore, let me use your get to divorce my wife. The law is that this get is invalid for the second man to use to divorce his wife. Even though the get was indeed written for the purpose of divorce, it is invalid for the second man, because the get must also be written for the sake of the man who will use it. But in this case, it was written for the first man. A ruling more novel than the previous ruling. If a man had 2 wives with the same name, and he wrote a get with which to divorce the older wife, he cannot divorce the younger wife with it. Even though this get was written for the purpose of divorce and for the sake of the husband, it is still invalid for the younger wife because a get must also be written for the sake of the specific wife being divorced with it. In this case, however, the husband wrote it for another wife by the same name. A ruling more novel than the previous ruling. If this man who had 2 wives with the same name said to the scribe, write a get for me, and I will use it to divorce whichever wife I choose, the get is invalid for him to use to divorce either wife. Even though this get was written for the wife he eventually decides to divorce, it is invalid because it was not specifically designed for either of the 2 wives at the time it was written. Thus, it is considered a get that was not written for the woman's sake.